Waiting, folks. We're a little late this morning. Thank you for watching another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Crane. When we come back, we've got three big ones for you today that I know you're going to like, and we'll be right back.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist.
Yes, we love the fact that you're continuing to subscribe to this station. It means a lot. And like the station, share it with your friends and family. It does help us beat the YouTube censorship, which I think is beginning to falter. Maybe not fall, but it's beginning to falter in the wake of President Donald Trump's reelection. We're president-elect, technically, at the moment. I know a lot of you were excited about that news, and we talked about it yesterday morning. A long night, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. I was barely functioning yesterday. But what's the reaction in Canada? It's just incredible. Look at this. Look at this. These are journalists, so-called columnists who probably won't be working when the next election occurs in the United States because the mainstream media is basically dead. It's unresponsive. And it's unresponsive, meaning it's dying and it's dead, but it's unresponsive to people. It doesn't get it. This is why I'm on independent media and new media, because legacy media doesn't get it. And this is the Globe and Mail. This is Andrew Coyne decrying the election of Donald Trump, who, once again, just like a good Democrat or a good liberal, Andrew Coyne projects everything on Donald Trump that the liberals and the Democrats have been guilty of, like lawfare, like political persecution, like condemning free speech. Don't bother reading it. I couldn't even get through it. But it's indicative of the crap that's coming from the Canadian media about Donald Trump being a dictator from day one. Never said that. Just like everything else that's ascribed to him. Look at this.
About the propaganda campaign and the playbook of Trump. This is not new. This is not surprising. This is directly out of Hitler's playbook. This is out of an autocrat playbook.
It's just so easy to say Donald Trump's like Hitler. Why? How is that? He was elected to the presidency twice. How is that like Hitler? He actually cares about working class people, or at least says so. Democrats don't. This is a Democratic strategist who, by the way, is from the United States and was on CNN recently blathering on about the same nonsense, Donald Trump being a new Hitler. And that interview, she actually made the erroneous statement that Donald Trump has supported eugenics. Well, actually, she's in the right country to be talking about eugenics. It's the Trudeau government that supports eugenics and euthanasia. But it's incredible to listen to these people.
This is a way to, I mean, the things that Trump has done masterfully, frankly, is to get the entire, to get a big part of the population to believe that the game is rigged and to sow distrust in public institutions and the free press. You're talking about the propaganda campaign and the playbook of Trump is to get the entire,
Did you hear this? Free press? What free press? CBC? CNN? MSNBC?
Get a big part of the population to believe that the game is rigged and to sow distrust in public institutions and the free press.
Yeah, the free press. Here is, this is what's really happening. This is the absolute euphoria that broke out early Wednesday morning. That's what America is about right now. And Why is it Hitler's playbook if you get people to come out and vote for you? I don't understand. You know these people are just full of it. Yeah, and more. And more. This is Tuesday. Americans are joyful that they don't have to put up with 4 more years of mass illegal immigration, criminals coming into the country to kill other Americans. Constituencies can get some green energy program going. That's what the Biden-Harris regime was all about. Let's have a look at this. Kyle Kemper said it all in this little.
Hey everybody, it's November 5th. Today's the day. Get everybody out there. Let them know. It's we the people versus the Matrix. A vote for peace is a vote for Trump. A vote for war is a vote for Harris. Simply ask any of your Democrat friends if they'd imagine they'd ever vote for Dick Cheney. To really think about what that means. Dick Cheney is Kamala Harris, is the war machine, is the military-industrial complex, is big pharmaceutical, is big insurance, is big government. They don't give a shit about we the people whatsoever. They look down and spit on we the people. This is an opportunity to elect the Avengers, led by Donald Trump, Bobby Kennedy, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, Vivek, and so many incredible other people. It's time for political realignment. Let's go, friends. Get out there, vote Trump, kick out the Democrats, look down your ballots. Honestly, anything that D decided is to be avoided. This is a very dangerous party. They call everybody else Nazis, but guess what? They be the Nazis. They be the fascists. They don't care about the people. They believe in elitism. And if their will trumps it, they're willing to cheat. Fuck those guys. It's over. Let's go. We the people rise. Remedy is Kennedy. RFK all the way. Donald Trump to the White House. 47 and 24. Kennedy 28. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Get out there, vote. Have a great time. Raise the vibration. Play some music. Engage peacefully, respectfully, and ask great questions. Love to all.
And I've asked Kyle to be on the show. He will be coming on. It's just a question of whether it's tomorrow or the next day. But we're going to talk about what happened in the United States, why we won, why free speech won. And it's going to be a great conversation. I can't wait to have Kyle on again. I'm one of the few people actually who interviewed Kyle Kemper. And of course, he is the brother of Justin Trudeau, totally at odds with him politically. But I was one of the few people to actually interview Kyle Kemper this year. Tucker Carlson being probably the only other. There's a guy. So we're going to have him back on the show. Now, I want to talk about an issue here that is incredible because, as you know, I've been doing a lot of work on Bill C-293. This is the bill that's going to outlaw meat in this country and put us in the back pocket of the World Health Organization. But guess what? Even if Bill C-293 passes or doesn't pass, Canada's already aligned itself with the World Health Organization and globalists to ensure that we have lost control of our food policy, that we will be under the control of the globalists during any pandemic. We will not have the freedom to eat what we want, to produce what we want, to govern as a sovereign country. And so there's people out there, I'm not going to make any names, who don't want to talk about Bill C-293 because it's not a problem. It's not an issue. And they take down their videos. Well, it's a problem, but it's not the only problem. It's worse. Let's have a look at this.
Published online by Children's Health Defence. It's a piece headlined, Are vaccine passports just around the corner? US, Canada, Mexico launch pandemic preparedness initiative. Quote, the US, Canada and Mexico last week launched a joint pandemic preparedness initiative that one critic warned could empower the World Health Organization to impose global control measures like vaccine passports and policies targeting the infodemic. I say this should scare the bejesus out of any and every sane and responsible individual. Let's remember, we're still very much in the aftermath of the so-called COVID, so-called pandemic. Let's keep in mind what we know about the lies of safe and effective, the propaganda we were fed around the clock about the need for lockdowns, the need for masks, for magic arrows on the floors of shops, all that malarkey, all of it exposed now for the psyop that it was. Quote, the US, Canada and Mexico launched a joint pandemic preparedness initiative they said will unite the country's public health agencies around a One Health approach to addressing future pandemics. A critic of the new initiative warned the plan may empower the World Health Organization, the architect of the original One Health initiative, to impose global control measures like vaccine passports and new policies targeting the infodemic. Because this is an initiative from the WHO, I am deeply concerned, said Nicholas Holscher, an epidemiologist and fellow at the McCullough Foundation. They appear to be seeking domain over plants, animals and humans, globalised central control over public health policies in all participating countries.
So I'm sure you're getting this. Nobody talks plainer or clearer than my friend Neil Oliver. But it doesn't matter what you want. It doesn't matter what Canadians want. The Liberal government is continuing on its progress, this process, to sign you up to the World Health Organization's international health treaties. So we don't have a choice. We're not being asked. It's not going to be a question in any election. It's not going to be a referendum. We are being told what's happening. C-293 might, for all we know, just be a smokescreen. While we're all focused on C-293, this is also happening at the same time. So even though C-293 looks like it's going to pass, even if it didn't, the Liberal government's already done the groundwork to abrogate your sovereignty, Canadian sovereignty, to the World Health Organization and to ensure that they call the shots, not Canada. This is already happening.
What they also know they need, I would say, to make everything else they have in mind actually have an effect, is control over the information. Is there to be no escape from these fraudsters? Back to the article. The WHO defines One Health as an integrated, unifying approach to balance and optimise the health of people, animals and the environment. That kind of language, that kind of robotic, automated AI language just puts the fear of God in me. It goes on. Public Health Canada says One Health considers the relationships between the health of humans, animals and the environment, suggesting future pandemics or public health threats may cross from animals to humans. The report also suggests that border health measures, including vaccine passports, could be implemented during a future pandemic or public health emergency. The report states, the implementation of border health measures at airports, seaports and land borders, such as screening of passengers, vaccination requirements, quarantine and entry restrictions, should be evidence-based and aimed to slow the introduction or spread of a pathogen in the region. Evidence-based? Seriously? These people have the brass neck to say in public that the implementation of whatever measures they might have in mind now should be based on evidence. Let's consider for a moment or two the kind of evidence we were beaten over the head with during those endless days in which we were ordered to trust the science. Watch this testimony here.
Fanatics who wants to vaccinate every person in this country, even though they are children who has very little risk for it, even though they have already had the COVID, that has undermined the trust in other vaccines enormously, creating enormous vaccine hesitancy.
So not allowing their provider or physician to determine the risk and the benefit.
Yeah, and also people themselves, because people know that about immunity. We learned that in school. People know that if you've had a disease, you had...
It wasn't until I came to Congress that I found out infection-acquired immunity was a novel concept.
Yeah, I guess we knew about it since 430 BC of the Athenian plague until 2020, and then we didn't know about it for 3 years, and now we know about it again. So,
and there it is. So this is already on the books. The Trudeau government's already in the process of making this happen for all of us. So while I was up in arms and here
resilience for emerging threats, you see here that they say an infodemic can be a health threat because it's the overabundance of information, accurate or not, which makes it difficult to get individuals to adopt behaviors that they want you to adopt. This is crazy town, meaning if you don't, it's information that would stop you from doing what they want you to do, even if it's true information. The fact that they wrote this down is crazy town. So we told you last month that the House of Representatives had passed this bill. It's the No WHO Pandemic Preparedness Treaty Without Senate Approval Act, which would require a supermajority vote in the Senate before the president can hand this power over to the WHO. This is currently being read in the Senate. If this does not pass, it will be up to the next president, based on their own whim, to decide whether we sign the pandemic treaty with the WHO or not. I'm fairly certain that Kamala Harris would sign it. I'm fairly certain Donald Trump would not. If anyone wants to disagree with me, you're free to do so. Now, one of the things that Representative Thomas Massey points out is that this treaty could open the way for other global treaties that would remove the U.S. power to make any decisions for his people. That includes going to war, stipulations about global trade. I'm going to let him explain, because this is terrifying, this idea of international treaties taking away our global sovereignty. Watch.
So I wish we had time to watch Representative Thomas Massey's full comments here. We'll want to get on to China. But before I do, so while I'm complaining about why somebody else took down their video of a couple of people I interviewed, I hope you all saw the interview I did with Camille El-Sheikh and Lisa Miron, who were talking about Bill C-293. I realized that it's not just Bill C-293. That the Trudeau government has already put everything in place so that the World Health Organization controls the next pandemic in Canada. And that pandemic can be anything this government or the World Health Organization, because they're working in concert, decides it is. That is what is frightening here. So we have lost control of this. This is why, thank God, Donald Trump was elected, because he took the United States out of the World Health Organization and will do so again. That's the kind of action that is required. Now, I want to get to a story here that broke yesterday. Nothing in the mainstream media about it yet. This report is incredible, and you're going to hear more about this when I have a chance to digest this, because I've written about this extensively last March for the Post Millennial, and I reported on it on this program. And this, of course, is the scandal that we had 2 Chinese spies working in the Winnipeg microbiology lab. It's a top secret lab. We had 2 spies working there who were dedicated communists. They were sending back material and documentation to the People's Liberation Army of China. You might remember the story. CSIS warned the government about this months in advance. Nothing was done. Trudeau did nothing. The Minister of Health did nothing. The Minister of Public Safety did nothing. Finally, these two were told, you better go home. There's a problem here. Then suddenly we had a snap election in 2021. Why do you suppose that was? Was there a quid pro quo between China and the Liberal government? That if nothing was said and these two were just booted back to China, everything would be okay? And by the way, maybe you could help finance the election. And Pierre Poilievre, conservative leader, has already said that's why we had that snap election. Now, my friend Sam Cooper, who's been on this show twice to talk about Chinese election interference, was first at bat writing about this, saying, CSIS warned Health Canada of insider threat from Wuhan Institute and scientists. And lethal Ebola was sent to China. Now, the question, of course, you're all wondering was, does that mean COVID might have been manufactured in Canada? I don't know, and I can't categorically make that statement or make that accusation, but it's sure looking more like that the more we know about this story. Now, this parliamentary report from the committee that was charged with looking into Chinese interference released this on November 5th, the day of the presidential election. Do you find that just a bit suspicious? Do you think perhaps they wanted to bury this report because it's potentially hugely embarrassing, catastrophically embarrassing, if this means that these guys were actually doing what potentially they could have been? And this is the question we need answered. Put my glasses on to read this one. See, the program that these two were here for include the 1,000 Talents program, which uses incentives such as salaries, research funding, and laboratory space to encourage Chinese researchers abroad to transmit knowledge to the People's Republic of China. You can't state it any clearer than this. And this is from the report. And if you wanted to be eligible for the 1,000 Talents program, you had to have a special passion for the socialist motherland, meaning you had to be really enthusiastic about communist China. And what do? They send you overseas, and the Trudeau government says, come on into our lab and go ahead. You can send material back to China. And that's exactly what they did. Nobody really wanted to call this espionage when this story was released in March. I called it espionage. Clearly, that's what they were doing. Spying. When you take material or documents, you remove them from the lab and you send them back to your home country, that's called spying. That's called espionage. Now, these two resurfaced back in China, of course. They were sent back, probably given a medal for doing such a great job. But we know the COVID virus emerged from the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China. We know that. We don't know 100% that it was on purpose. Could have been an accident, but it could have been on purpose. It could have been a bioweapon produced by the Chinese to create international chaos and carnage, killing millions of people, causing economic catastrophe, leading to authoritarian governments, leading to things like the COVID mandates and lockdowns in Canada, leading to the Emergencies Act declaration by Justin Trudeau because people were sick and tired of those mandates, and he pushed them down. Think of the effects of COVID. And this is all documented in this report. On 31st of March, 2021, the House of Commons Special Committee on the Canada People's Republic of China relationship adopted a motion ordering the release of unredacted PHAC documents relating to the dismissal of these two doctors. The government failed to comply with the order, and so the special committee subsequently adopted a second order for the documents. Again, the government failed to comply. The Speaker of the House was sued, if you recall, by the Trudeau government because he told the government to release the documents. You recall that? And here are these scientists, aka spies, who worked in Canada at the Winnipeg microbiology lab. Top secret place, top secret laboratory. And the question we need to know now is, what were they really up to? We need more evidence. But clearly, the 2021 snap election was a direct result of this scandal, of this cover-up. The Trudeau government has been covering this up now for over 3 years. 4 years, sorry. And this is an absolute, it's not just a scandal, it goes beyond scandal. This is a disgrace. This is a national disgrace, especially if this goes as far as it might. And this is what we have to determine here, folks. How grievous was this? Total breakdown in security and intelligence. And it only was a breakdown not because, and I don't often praise the work of the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, they're far too focused on social conservatives, pro-life activists, and parental rights supporters. But CSIS was doing its job here, and it reported a huge problem. So there was espionage going on in this lab, and the government should do something about it. The government ignored that advice for 7 months. During that 7 months, anything, almost literally anything, could have happened in that lab. Now, how would you feel if Canada was indicted as being responsible in any way for the production of COVID? I'm not saying it happened. I can't say that yet. But that's where this intelligence, that's where this information is headed. And it makes me extremely angry that the Trudeau government covered this up, did not want questions asked, and wanted a snap election right after this occurred. Was there a quid pro quo? I've asked that in the past. I'll ask it again. Was there? Did the government get something back from China for allowing these two to go quietly back, for saying absolutely nothing about what happened here? And if absolutely nothing meant a cover-up about the production of the pandemic, that is incredible. And that's what we need to know right now, folks. That's what we need to get, I hate to say it, to the bottom of. I wrote this story for the Post Millennial way back in March here because Poilievre at the time was putting 2 and 2 together and saying, hold it. Why did we have a snap election right after this? Right after these two are suddenly sent back to China. And we know that information was being sent back to the People's Liberation Army. Why did we suddenly have an election? Now, Poilievre hasn't made the accusation that there was a quid pro quo. But I think he should at least ask the question of whether there was a link between these two and whether or not the Liberal government received assistance from China. Because we know Chinese election interference has included the support of Liberal MPs in the Greater Toronto area. We know that. We know that's why we had the Hogue inquiry, which is really, I don't think is going to ever come to any logical conclusion. But that's why we had the Hogue inquiry. Not because we were worried about India, but because we know that China was helping Justin Trudeau. That's why Justin Trudeau doesn't want to talk about this issue at all. So we're going to be hearing more about this in the next few days. And can't wait to have Kyle Kemper on the show. We'll be talking about what the election of Donald Trump means for Canada. Yes, and for the U.S., but also what it means for freedom around the world, for freedom of speech, for perhaps the end of more COVID mandates or more pandemic mandates or more infringement upon our basic right to decide what we do with our lives. And damn it, the Conservative Party of Canada had better stand up and take notice of what happened this week in the United States. It's good news for Canada. You're going to see the mainstream media continue to talk about this being a catastrophe, about this being devastating for Canada. It's going to mean horrible consequences. But the mainstream media is on its last legs. It probably won't be around, as I said, and even a minimized form of what it is today, because people no longer watch it. People no longer read it. People no longer believe it. People no longer trust it because it spews lies and projects that on everybody else. They are the kings of misinformation, but yet they accuse everybody else of spreading misinformation and disinformation, just like Justin Trudeau. The times, they are a-changing, folks. And with Donald Trump in the White House, we might have a chance for peace. We might have a chance not to have a nuclear war, to have a third world war, which was, I think, a very real possibility had Donald Trump lost this election. We just have to keep an eye on the deep state right now in terms of how they are going to move against President-elect Trump before he becomes president on January 20th, 2025. We gotta make sure that happens. Thanks for watching today, folks. Gone a little overtime. God bless you. Remember to continue to resolve to resist, continue to fight for the rights that you deserve and that are yours because God gave them to you, not the state. And we continue here to give you all the news you need to know.